Howdy everyone, it is I, the Fable of Fables, your new best friend. I'm reacting to I'm reacting to some Warhammer content this time, mostly because a couple months ago, this one person really wanted me to react to some more to some freaking Skaven stuff. It was kind of funny, and now that I guess I have not much to go on right now, and yeah, why not? Sorry, that sounds so bad. But yeah, this one person really wanted me to learn about the clans and even suggested I can split the video in half, and I'm like, oh my goodness, my dude, I understand. Just give me some time. I'll get to it eventually. And yeah, here I am. I don't know if you're ever gonna watch this video, bud, but I hope you're doing good. Keep being beautiful. Keep being lovely, San Francisco. Where am I going with that? I don't freaking know. But still, yeah, keep being beautiful, my dude. Stay safe, all that good stuff. Let's go!
Warhammer. It's got a lot of factions.
Oh yeah,
3 entire game systems worth of factions. Some of
too
them are
many.
absolutely iconic. If you take a Space Marine and show it to someone who doesn't know anything about Warhammer, there's decent odds they'll be able to recognize it as that 40k thing. Some, of course, are flops. You work on a franchise for 40 plus years, you're bound to end up with something atrocious like Bretonnia eventually. Not
Oh my
everything's
god.
a hit after all, sometimes you end up with a mistake. Most factions are unique and have their own draws that weigh out any potential cons though. Even the Leagues of Votann have plenty to bring someone towards collecting them, even with their model count currently being pretty minimal and their lore being entirely propped up by the old squats and Deep Rock Galactic existing. But out of all the armies you can collect in Warhammer, none of them reach the peak that the Skaven have managed to climb. They are, in my eyes, the ultimate Warhammer faction. In lore and tabletop, everything. As far as designing an army goes, they're peak Warhammer. Sure, they've
They're
got
really funny, but
downsides,
I
but from the
don't know.
standpoint of not only players of Warhammer and fans of its lore, but also from GW's point of view, they have pretty much everything you could possibly want out of a faction. And you know, looking back on my Skaven do or don't, that video was only 12 minutes long. For a faction that I love as much as the Skaven, I feel like I didn't nearly do them enough justice. So if you don't believe me, please, let me try to convince you all on the subject of Skaven supremacy. And on the topic of things that are great, posters are pretty cool, don't you think? A nice decoration to hang on your wall, something to start a conversation, or if we're being honest, turn your hobby room into the nerdiest thing on the planet. No shame in all, I am no different. And if you want the best posters in the business, you can do no better than Display, the sponsor of this video. Display
I'm not nice like Mert, so let's go for
best.
straightforward.
Let's start off slow. They're one of the few things that are almost wholly original to GW. I'll be
Mm-hmm.
honest, as much as Warhammer Fantasy is my favorite Warhammer setting, there's like 3 original bones in its body. What isn't taken from Tolkien or Michael Moorcock is just taken from real life history. A land of fractured nation states who elect an emperor and constantly squabble amongst each other? Man, I wonder where that comes from. Or how about
Right.
a dying race who's highly proficient in magic and tends towards extreme arrogance? Congratulations, you have the High Elves, and every elf ever. I don't think
Pretty
there's
much,
anything
yeah.
truly wrong with that, but still, Warhammer Fantasy isn't the most original thing out there. But the Skaven, oh, the Skaven, their inspirations are just that, inspirations. They didn't copy and paste something before filing the serial numbers off. As far as I understand it, there's 2 main inspirations, the general idea of rats being bastards, and roughly World War I era tech. The first thing you can't possibly call a
World War
ripoff,
One era
because rats
tech,
being
my
evil
dude.
isn't exactly a new idea, and it's not unique to one corporation or the other. I doubt the first medieval peasant dying of the Black Plague is gonna call GW out on copying his suffering for their war game or some shit. As
They
for World
should.
War I, they're a race of mad scientist evil rats who use poison gas, machine guns, and wave tactics to overwhelm their enemies no matter the cost. Well, yeah, most of those things were in World War I. I don't remember the rats at Verdun being quite as vicious as the Skaven. They take the idea of World War I warfare and turned it into a unique and distinct faction, not just grabbing France or Germany from that time period and making them all mice. They're a race that makes GW's work truly stand out, because there's not really anything you can point at and go, yeah, they're basically just this, but with vermin. Also, unrelated fun fact, did you know that rats are actually quite the social butterflies? There's actually some pretty significant amount of findings that show rats are supportive and reasonably kind animals, only really turning into something resembling the Skaven under the most extremely cramped and horrid conditions. Why don't you think on that the next time you say the phrase rat bastard? But while it's
Nah,
quite rude to
I'm gonna
normal
do it
rats, the
again though.
phrase is perfectly suited to these ones. They are pure evil to the core on a species-wide level. The kindest a Skaven is ever going to get is when they consider certain other Skaven as tools worth preserving, rather than just throwing them into the firing line for fun. They are so tremendously awful that even the worst demon or follower of chaos across any Warhammer setting is going to look like a shoplifter at worst by comparison. And
Oh
you know
my
what?
god.
That's amazing. Quite frankly, the only
That
true
is an avid description of a Skaven, Jeebus. Like, geez, that is one hell of a description, bud. But he's not necessarily wrong, though, is the problem. Huh. Okay.
Downside I think they have is them being pure evil, which means if you want even the most tenuous argument for your faction being in some way good, then you're totally out of luck here. But there's so many upsides that come with it that I just don't think it matters. For one, this is a war game setting. Warhammer thrives on conflict. Sure, a lot of factions within it want peace eventually, but then we run into the issue of not having a war game anymore because no one's fighting. Other than Blood Bowl, I guess, but it's just not the same. The Skaven, meanwhile, can single-handedly ensure there will always be war in Warhammer. Besides, villains with complex motivations and moral shades of grey are all well and good, but pure evil ones are some of the most iconic for a reason. Emperor Palpatine would be a lot less fun to watch if he just sat Luke down and calmly explained how the Jedi and Republic were corrupt and had to go, instead of electrocuting him. It's also sometimes just fun to be the bad guy. It's why games like Overlord exist. It's fun to be a piece of shit every now and again, and you cannot get lower on the morality totem pole than the Skaven. They're selfish, they're cruel, they want to enslave or kill every other being in existence, including other Skaven, and it's amazing. And yet, even with all that being said and done, you can still root for Skaven characters because they're just so fun to watch do their thing. Even amongst Warhammer fans who don't really know much about fantasy, I have not met a single person who genuinely dislikes Thanquol or the idea of his character. He's the most Skaven to ever Skaven. He will routinely torture underlings for no reason other than he can. He's so self-centered he makes other Skaven look like paragons of humility, and overall, he's just the worst. But every time he makes an appearance in a book I'm reading, I get the goofiest grin on my face, and I can't help rooting for the guy. He's just so silly and fun to watch do his thing. His evil is so over the top that he utters the phrase, "There's more than one way to skin an infant." I mean, what the hell am I supposed to do with that kind of character other than just laugh and hopes he sticks around, if only to see how awful he can get. His incompetence, how abhorrent of a being he is, mixed with his actual skills are great, and I can't get enough of it. To say nothing of Claw, aka the rat who broke the moon, or any of the other Skaven characters. They're so bombastic and ridiculous that it loops around from being reprehensible to just being funny, and you root for them because you want to see what BS they get up to next. Speaking of their evil, though, they're perfect because it can be played either completely straight or for laughs. Let's look at it played straight first. You're an Imperial citizen in some backwater town or other. Not too big, you're not in Nuln or Altdorf or something like that, but also not too small. You got yourself a reasonable garrison to keep any stray beastmen or goblins out, and the walls are of decent quality. Maybe thousands of years ago some elves or dwarfs made them and your town keeps them in good enough condition to use. Things are good. Then one day, things start getting bad. Not all at once, and early on it may not even be anything particularly exceptional. The Skaven can be subtle after all. Maybe you have a bit of a crop shortage one harvest season. That sucks, and you and some others are definitely going to be hungry for a bit, but that happens all the time. There's no reason to suspect foul play, especially foul play by devious Ratman. Then some cattle get slaughtered, but again, no biggie. A beastman probably got hungry before he could be driven off. Some people start going missing, which is certainly more worrying, but again, it happens all the time. In the world of Warhammer Fantasy or Age of Sigmar, there's a million different reasons someone can get lost. Then things start getting bad in a way that you can't rationalize away, that can't be written off as unrelated occurrences. Out of the corner of your eye, you see hunched figures darting in and out of the shadows. You never quite catch a glimpse, but you can swear they're watching the moment you turn away. Shards of warpstone begin appearing, tainting the land, water, and more, and turning your fellow townsfolk into vile mutants. More people begin disappearing, now many of them influential figures in the town. Reports of caravans being attacked by rat-like beastmen constantly come in, until one day no one ever makes the trip to your town again. And one day, if you listen closely, you can swear you hear the tolling of a bell 13 times, and then it comes to a head. As if out of nowhere, thousands upon thousands of Skaven surge into the town. Maybe they burst out of the ground through a massive network of tunnels they've been building all this time, slaughtering the guard and anyone in their path before you can react. Maybe they approach from outside the wall, but while you cut down 10 for every one man you lose, you can never kill enough to stop them. All the while, the most horrific creatures you could imagine.
It's honestly true, given the fact that Skaven are essentially on the tabletop, in the war game. They are considered a horde faction, so like in horde army. So you have to outnumber things with giant amounts of freaking units, like literally huge units upon them. I love how on the tabletop, if you've seen the video, apparently The whole thing is there's literally a chance where the Skaven will blow themselves up because you overcharge their weapons, which is kind of freaking hilarious when you think about it.
And lumber towards the gates, smashing them in and letting the horde into the town. Survivors are taken into slavery or outright eaten, and in a single night the entire town is gone. When played straight, the Skaven are an endless tide of hungry, hateful creatures using foul science and magic to destroy everything around them, including each other. There is no stopping them truly, because you can never kill them all. Their recklessness means even the most prepared and intelligent of scholars, engineers, or warriors can't hope to match them. Even the strongest of elven sorcerers or the most intelligent of dwarf engineers can't hope to match the 50 Grey Seers or 500 Rattling Gun teams they face off against. Their very god is just as evil as him, and he is ever hungry for more conquest. But then, we get to the silly Skaven, the way they're portrayed most often outside of circumstances like the Total War trailer or Vermintide games. In this version, they're still trying to do the exact same things before. Secretly build up an invasion force, weaken their target town, all that jazz. Except they can't actually do anything right. Anytime they power up their latest invention, it explodes. The people in charge of the thing either explode with it, or all start blaming each other so their superiors kill the other rat instead of them. They're also probably crushing up and storing the warpstone used to power their tech when they think no one's looking, because nothing pairs with dangerous and unstable technology like crack rocks. Meanwhile, their espionage teams just seem to keep hitting snags in their operation. One team accidentally burrows directly into the guard post during a shift change and is promptly slain. One team somehow gets lost despite starting 5 feet from the town walls and ends up in Mindenheim instead. And the third team didn't even make it out of the base, instead all fighting each other over who should be in charge and killing half their ranks in the process. Meanwhile, their leaders have all promptly ignored the Council of 13's orders, which they blame on their fellow commanders, so the council will have them killed instead. This is followed by them having half the army redeployed to go fight one of their rivals instead of this otherwise perfectly conquerable town they're supposed to be capturing. Meanwhile, Claw has diverted all of your remaining warpstone supplies to his latest project, because he wants to see if he can build a bomb that only blows up elves. Not only does this rob you of your remaining warpstone you need for the assault, but the bomb...
I love how accurate that is. That's, oh, brother. Seriously, it's just a freaking bomb that only blows up elves. Yep, that's definitely a Skaven weapon. Sounds amazing, by the way.
The build somehow manages to only hurt members specifically belonging to your clan, and entirely by accident, it blows up directly in your barracks. Why is it in your barracks? Who knows? All of this, mind you, happened in the first 3 days of preparing for the assault on the town. It swiftly ends when Gotrek and Felix show up, promptly kill all of them, and 300 miles away, Thankwold laughs to himself about how he has rid himself of rivals that didn't actually know he existed. They talk-speak funny, they betray each other so often that it loops around from despicable to hilarious, and they're an entire race built on the concept of failing upwards. I mean, come on, they mine gold purely because it makes other races angry. They don't use it for anything, they just know that the dwarfs will get pissed if they take their gold, and so they throw thousands of workers to their deaths to rob Thorgrim of a couple gold bars. They're pure evil, and can be terrifying, but just as often, they're just funny. To address them being perfect on the tabletop, you have so many options available to you that in some ways it honestly rivals even the Space Marines over in 40k. Sure, you have your classic unending horde of rats you can drown your enemy in. While it may not be an orthodox way to win your game, making your opponent rage quit because your movement phase takes 3 hours is definitely one way to go about things. And hey, as long as the enemy isn't Marathi and just decides to stop taking damage after a certain point, everything will die if you throw enough rats at it. And even with just that strategy, you've got options. Clan rats for the most basic choice, plague monks for a bit more damage, storm vermin for an all-around upgrade. Even if your only plan is to drown the enemy in rats, you can do that in plenty of different ways. But consider also the humble Rattling Gun. It's a magical machine gun that explodes as often as not, but it'll probably hurt the enemy on the way out. Same with the Warfire Thrower, but now it's a flamethrower. Perhaps artillery is more your thing. Plague Claw Catapult or a Warp Lightning Cannon. Go nuts. Magic? You've got the Grey Seers, of course.
I love those Skaven stupid weapons. Literally, they have a Gatling gun, but it's called the Rattling Gun. That is amazingly stupid. It's funny because, like, freaking, I don't know, it's just so funny to me because of the fact that a lot of the time, Warhammer Fantasy is supposed to be, like, fantasy, so they have, like, flintlocks and all this stuff, but the freaking Skaven are like, so we have technology, so we have, like, the super high level of technology, also we have a nuke. So stupid. How the hell do they have newts in a fantasy world? That's freaking hilarious.
Course, or a Vermin Lord if you want to go big. In fact, Vermin Lords are filling 4 different roles because you can build them in 4 different ways, 5 if you count the special character Screech Vermin King. And of course, all sorts of medium or heavy monsters to throw onto the field. Hell Pit Abominations, Rat Ogres, Storm Fiends. You have so many different options for building a Skaven army that it's almost absurd. Are they all viable? Probably not, but
No,
who cares?
they're
You have
horrible.
so many different options, and if you only build for viability, you're missing out on both a whole lot of fun and the true Skaven experience of just throwing garbage at the enemy and seeing what sticks. And while they're of course more on the expensive side, you can build them for at least a little bit cheaper than you might think. Take Thanquol. He's $90 for a model that's 430 points on the tabletop. That's not a bad deal at all in terms of points per dollar. Storm Fiends are $75 for a 310 point unit. Vermin Lords can be up to 400 points depending on which one you choose for $115. And a lot of the individual models like the Warp Lightning Catapult are around 40-ish bucks for roughly 180 points, give or take 10 or 20 in both dollars and points. If you want the endless Vermintide playstyle with large-scale games, then yeah, you better just accept the fact that you're missing at least one mortgage payment. But for smaller games and using some of the pricier models, you can actually play Skaven relatively cheaply. Relatively, of course, as always we're talking Warhammer prices here, but you can always find...
Yeah, not gonna lie, GW's Warhammer prices is kind of bullshit, especially lately since it's going up.
some secondhand for a bit cheaper, and as an
boy.
added bonus, them being a horde army means that anyone selling them probably has a lot of minis they want to get rid of. Well, I'm not sure if it's still up. There was a dude selling 71 Plague Monks on eBay for $79. That's barely $1 a mini, and that's the kind of thing you can expect to find buying Skaven secondhand. Of course, switching back over to the narrative side of things, all those fun units on the tabletop have their own factions and lore behind them. You want to build an army of mad scientists? You got 2 different flavors of mad scientist. You can go Frankenstein with Clan Mulder, because sometimes it's fun to play Russian.
It's actually incredibly funny now that you mentioned Clan Mulder because I was actually in a kind of like a game Mech made for his birthday. I was part Clan Mulder. He had us roll to see what clan we'd end up in. I got Clan Mulder. It was amazing. I was doing so many wrestling moves, and when I tried to actually make an abomination, it imploded on itself. Ah, that was fun. A little sad I wasn't able to eat more warpstone though, but what can you do?
Roulette with people's genes. Or maybe you prefer the technological side of being a mad scientist. Clan Scryer will be happy to have you. Probably to use you as a live test dummy for their latest invention, but hey, you can't make an omelet without cracking a few 100,000 eggs. An endless swarm of rats your thing? Clan Mors or Verminous has you covered quite handily. What if you're a sneakier kind of fella? Well, Clan Eshin is more than happy to teach you the ways of Evil Master Splinter. And if you're a frequent goer of anime conventions, Clan Pestilence is the home for you. And you know what makes all of this even more wonderful?
Freaking 10 pestilence. If you guys ever watched the shorts, you know that one of dear friend of mine literally said turbo AIDS. It was a thing. It was horrible.
Pretty
It
much
was a
every
thing.
way they have not changed from their fantasy iteration, at least the more recent one. Well, as with all factions, they've had changes since their very first inception. From Fantasy to Age of Sigmar to Total War, they've all been pretty much the same. Clan Pestilence is now the Clan's Pestilence, but they're still the same thing, spreading disease and ruin across reality in the name of the Horned Rat. For that matter, a whole ton of the hero models in AOS are the same as they were in Fantasy. Like the Arch Warlock is just Ikit Claw. It's straight up the Ikit Claw model being called something different. Yeah, you can make the argument that it ruins what makes the character special, since it's no longer an individual character, but consider this argument. If you'd like, you can just straight up have the narrative of your AOS game be the Skaven from Fantasy. You don't have to pretend that this new model is actually an old fantasy character, because again, this is just straight up Ikit Claw. Just like the Plague Priest is just Lord Skrulk. It's your narrative for the game, but then it's in any of the settings you want. And while of course plenty of the old models could certainly use an update, in the grand scheme of things I don't think they're that bad. Especially given their lore, Skaven models looking a bit derpy or outdated isn't the worst thing ever. The Skaven are supposed to look horrible. They're supposed to look dingy and gross and generally unpleasant. So a model being a bit outdated isn't as bad for them as it is for, say, the Guard, and the poor Katakan jungle fighters who look like they spent a round too many in the ring with...
Yeah, no, I completely agree with them because if you look at some of the some of the models that do need updates, they're probably never gonna get an update. As for the models that don't need updates, yeah.
Ivan Drago. This of course has its limits. Please for the love of God GW update the Eshin infantry units, they need help, but overall the Skaven look both good and consistent across their model lines in the different games alike. And this is all good for both GW and Warhammer fans. For GW, they have a faction that they can sell across multiple different systems, especially if they remove the Skaven from the legacy side of the old world and update them. They can both sell old models because a lot of them aren't that bad looking or in need of an update, all the while pretty much every new model they make for them is going to be met with applause. From a player standpoint, you can use those rats anywhere. Just put them on a square or a circle base depending on how you're feeling. The only faction that surpasses them in this are the demon factions you can use even over in 40k. And only a few of the models they have are horribly outdated, so your army's gonna look good. You also have all the reason you need to have them fighting any army in the game. Skaven fighting the forces of Order? Of course they are. The Skaven are a monstrously evil and destructive race. Every Order army will fight them.
True.
Destruction armies don't need a reason to fight anyone, same as death, so there's another thing they got going for them. And as for mirror matches, the Skaven hate each other almost as much as they hate non-Skaven. You ever look at something like an Imperium versus Imperium match and think, man, these people should really be fighting literally anyone else? Well, with the Skaven, you don't have that problem. You never think that because the Skaven spend more time fighting each other than outside forces. It's been specifically given as the reason they don't conquer everything. They spend most of their energy fighting each other. The moment they united in the end times, they conquered half the world on their own. So yeah, narratively, there's never an invalid time for the Skaven to be fighting, especially if it's against each other. And to get back to rules, my favorite thing about the Skaven is that in some ways, they're the last bastion of Warhammer having rules that are as geared towards fun as they are towards competitive balance. Sometimes Warhammer having goofy rules was taken too far, especially early in Age of Sigmar's lifespan. Having a rule where your model performs better if you have a bigger mustache than your opponent is just a bit much, funny as it is. Which was a real rule in AOS First Edition, thank you Kurt Hellborg. But the Skaven keep that attitude going without overdoing it. Want to double the damage your Warp Lightning Cannon does? Just overcharge that son of a bitch and let it rip, as long as you don't mind the substantial chance it'll explode and take its crew with it. Same for all their weapons teams. It's not only the best way to marry their lore with their gameplay, but it's also just good fun. You can't be angry when your overcharge fails because A, you did it to yourself, and B, it's just a good time doing it. Laugh like a mad scientist, bet it all on black, and either win the game in one move or send your weapons team straight to hell. Drown the enemy in 500 rats at a time. Who cares if you lose all of them in a single volley from the enemy? You have another 500 right behind them. Maybe I'm wrong or it's just my blatant favoritism showing for them, but the Skaven seem to be one of the few Warhammer armies where fun was prioritized over either balance or making them overpowered to sell new models. And you don't often get that nowadays. And for my last big reason to love the Skaven, it's that in all honesty, I think they can comfortably fit in 40k in plenty of different ways. Think about
It's true. They can legitimately fit into 40k, and I think a lot of fans would actually appreciate that. But GW is kind of a bitch, so I don't know
about it. Their technology is almost entirely powered by Warpstone, solidified chaos essentially. With that in mind, I think it could fit into 40k just fine without too many power scaling issues. If you think Warpstone weapons would be too underpowered as they are in Fantasy or even AOS, that can easily be explained by Chaos being a much bigger influence in 40k, on account of it being galaxy-wide rather than just contained to one planet or 8 realms. Chaos is stronger due to the increased scale and time span, therefore the Warpstone is more potent. Their numbers aren't an issue, because if you turn around for 5 minutes, the Skaven will have overpopulated a hive world.
That's
and as
true.
for transportation, the Skaven and Age of Sigmar tunnel between reality and the warp through gnaw holes that can show up anywhere. It's like the webway, only worse in every way, because at least within the webway, you'll probably be fine as long as you don't go near a damaged section. Gnaw holes, meanwhile, have a mortality rate that's unknown, but let's be honest, it's a Skaven-made thing. It's at least 50%. But yeah, in terms of capability, they could just straight up be added to 40k with minimal issues in my opinion. And even if you don't agree with that on a factional level, how about this? Take some Skaven, mix them with Imperial Guard bits, and you suddenly have an abhuman army. The Guard already works by drowning the enemy in men like the Skaven do with rats, why not give the mice some futuristic bits? And as long as you swap out the bases, you could probably just use a Rattling Gun or Warpfire Thrower as a heavy weapons team. This one may be a bit weird since the Skaven obviously aren't in 40k, but I think they could work just fine. The image of rats swarming across the galaxy is one that brings great joy to my heart, and honestly, for all that it's completely non-canon, it makes me love them even more. And for all those reasons, that's why I think the Skaven are the best faction. That sentence really sounds like I'm capping off a college essay, but I can't think of a better way to end the video. go buy yourself some Skaven. And on an unrelated but still cool note, Gaijin Goomba, who I have done some collabs with, has made a channel dedicated to orcs. It's good fun and you should go check it out. Someone had to be the orc-themed content creator in the 40k space, and he's taken up the honorable role. Not quite as glamorous as the glorious Eldar are, but hey, any Xenos appreciation is always welcome. And they are the other race that won the war in heaven alongside the Eldar, so I think it's good that someone's bringing some more attention to them. Go watch his stuff, it's fun. And as always, thank you to my wonderful channel members. You are the warpstone to my Skaven, fueling my ever-expanding empire of garbage. If you'd like to support the channel, feel free to subscribe or become a member. Either way, thank you for watching and take care out there. You know what the worst thing the Skaven did? Constantly interrupt Nagash's plans. The uneducated among you may say that, but that's a good thing. Nagash is a monster. But the true geniuses among you will understand that the Warhammer fantasy world and the mortal realms all rightfully belong to him. That everyone else denying him this is denying him his rightful due. So yes, in that regards, the Skaven have truly ruined things for everyone, preventing the sweet embrace of death everyone so deserves.
Oh my goodness gracious. Alrighty, guys. Oh my god, what is this? The Horned Rat's funniest, silliest clown thing fighting his toughest, hardest battle fights. Oh, brother. Okay. I have a question. If you guys would like me to react, would you guys like me to react to the other stuff, like the other Skaven stuff that Frankrius No Words has? I'd be more than happy to. Just let me know in the comment section. Or if you guys want me to watch like a thing, well, I mean, you guys gotta give me like 500 bajillion dollars totally. Yep, the bajillionest of dollars. I'm kidding. But do let me know, guys, if you actually are interested in me watching the rest of the Pancreas No Words videos, like the many kinds of rats. No, Skaven Straight Clans. Have I watched that one? I'm not sure. But if you guys want me to react to that kind of stuff, do let me know. I'm actually kind of curious. If I have time and I'm not gonna die due to how long it is, I'll do it. I think I'm developing ADHD, not gonna lie. My attention span's so bad, chat. Alright, guys, love you all. I'll see you all later. Bye.